My name is Clara, and for most of my life I believed that hard work, loyalty, and honesty were the keys to success. I wasn't the smartest person in every room, but I made sure no one could ever question my effort. I showed up early, stayed late, and gave my all, but I learned the hard way that in some workplaces, effort means nothing when betrayal lurks in the shadows. This is the story of how my boss and my coworker tried to use me, humiliate me, and throw me aside, and how I turned their betrayal into their downfall. When I first started working, I was over the moon. It wasn't the biggest company in the city, but it had a good reputation, and for someone like me, 27, hungry for opportunity, it felt like the perfect stepping stone. I had been searching for stability, and when they hired me as a junior strategist, I thought I had finally found my place. My boss was one of those men who liked to present himself as a mentor, but everything about him screamed ego. He had the fancy suits, the smooth talk, and the way of making you feel like you were lucky just to breathe the same air as him. At first, I fell for it. He seemed to recognize my effort, always pointing out in meetings how dedicated I was, how quickly I learned, and how much potential I had. I thought he was grooming me for bigger things. Then there was Rachel. She was my direct teammate, someone who had been at the company a couple of years longer than me. At first, she was friendly, taking me to lunch, showing me the ropes, warning me about how demanding the boss could be. I trusted her. I even looked up to her. But little did I know she wasn't a friend. She was a snake. The first cracks appeared after I started landing some good campaigns. Clients were impressed with my strategies, and I got mentioned in a few company emails. Nothing huge, just small wins that made me feel proud. But Rachel's attitude started to change. She'd make little comments like, "Well, you got lucky this time," or "Enjoy the honeymoon phase. It doesn't last." At first, I brushed it off, but soon I realized she wasn't joking. She was jealous. Then came the project that changed everything. It was for a big client, a luxury travel company looking for a complete rebranding campaign. The boss called Rachel and me into his office and said, "This is going to be huge. Whoever proves themselves here is going to see big opportunities." The way he looked at me when he said it made my stomach flip. It felt like my chance to shine. I threw myself into the work. I spent late nights at the office, weekends at home, brainstorming ideas, researching trends, analyzing data. I built a presentation so detailed it could have been a masterclass. I shared updates with Rachel along the way because I believed we were a team. She'd smile, nod, and sometimes offer suggestions. What I didn't know was that she was quietly taking my ideas, twisting them and presenting them to the boss as her own. The day of the pitch came. We sat in the conference room, the client. "Ready," the boss at the head of the table. I opened my laptop. Ready to lead the presentation, only to have Rachel jump in first. She clicked through slides that looked eerily familiar. My slides, my research, my graphics. She was presenting my work as hers. My heart pounded in my chest. I wanted to scream. But I stayed silent, too shocked to speak. And when the boss clapped and said, "Brilliant work, Rachel. This is why we keep you around," I felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. I thought, maybe he didn't know. Maybe she had fooled him. But then I noticed the smirk he gave me. He knew, and he didn't care. In fact, I realized in that moment he was in on it. He had encouraged Rachel to take credit. Maybe to keep me in my place. Maybe because he wanted to pit us against each other. I don't know, but I knew this. I had been betrayed not just by a coworker, but by my own boss. For weeks, the humiliation ate at me. Rachel strutted around the office like she was queen while I sat quietly at my desk trying to swallow my pride. But inside, I was planning. They thought they had beaten me, but I wasn't about to roll over. I started keeping records, every email, every draft, every time-stamped file of the work I had created. I built a folder, so thick with evidence it could have crushed them both. And then fate handed me the perfect opportunity. Another big client was coming in. This one even bigger than the last. It was the kind of account that could make or break the company's reputation. Once again, I was paired with Rachel. The boss thought he could control the game, but he underestimated me. This time, I fed Rachel just enough ideas to keep her busy, while secretly building an entirely separate strategy of my own. She thought she was stealing from me again. But what she didn't realize was that the material I gave her was incomplete, missing key insights, deliberately flawed. The day of the pitch arrived. Rachel, confident as ever, strutted into the conference room with her half-baked strategy. She presented it smiling like she had already won, but the clients' faces said it all. They weren't impressed. They asked questions. Rachel couldn't answer, pointed out flaws. She couldn't defend. She started to sweat, stammer, lose her confidence. That's when I struck. I calmly stood up and said, "If I may, I prepared an alternative strategy." The boss' eyes widened. Rachel shot me a look of panic, but it was too late. I presented my complete plan, detailed, polished, bulletproof. The clients lit up, nodding, taking notes, smiling by the end. They shook my hand and said, "This is exactly what we were looking for." The room was silent when they left, except for the boss's clenched jaw and Rachel's pale face. They knew they had been exposed, and I wasn't done yet. After the meeting, I went straight to AR. I handed them the folder I had been building for weeks, the emails, the files, the proof of Rachel stealing my work, and the boss covering for her. Hers faces turned grim as they flipped through the evidence, and within a week, both Rachel and the boss were gone, fired. Their betrayal had caught up with them, and I was the one who lit the match. As for me, I didn't just keep my job. I got promoted. The company saw me as someone who could be trusted, someone who delivered, under pressure. And while I don't take joy in watching others fall, I can't lie. It felt good, because betrayal deserves consequences. Now, when I think back on those long nights of doubt and anger, I remind myself, I didn't let them break me. I broke their game, and I walked away, stronger, wiser, and finally respected.